Good afternoon. I'm honored to be here. I would like to express my appreciation to the Middle East Institute and to Kate Seeley and her staff for their hospitality and for inviting me to come to this important conference. I would like to share with you my observations about Iran's regional standing today, especially after the beginning of the Arab Spring in December of 2010. I would have two precise questions and three tentative answers. My questions are, one, has Iran's regional strategic situation overall improved since the start of the Arab Spring? My second question is, what price has Iran paid for this regional standing and for its regional policies? My tentative answers are three, and I can assure you, after I share with you those three answers, you can start taking a nap or begin to look at your emails, because the rest of my presentation is essentially a detailed explanation of those three major conclusions. Number one, I think there is almost no dispute that Iran has become a formidable regional player in the Middle East, in the greater Middle East, and even in Asia. But there is a great deal of disagreement about the nature of that power. I would submit to you that Iran has become a spoiler power. That is, Iran is insufficiently powerful to shape the landscape of the region, but is sufficiently powerful to make it costly, very costly, for the major powers to achieve their goals in the region. My second conclusion is that Iran's overall strategic standing in the region has not fundamentally changed since the beginning of the Arab uprising, although Iran does face some serious fault lines here and there. In some areas, Iran has lost, but in other areas, Iran has gained. On the neutral side, there has been absolutely no impact on Iran's position in Afghanistan, I think in Lebanon, and in Palestine. On the negative side, I think the greatest setback for Iran is in Syria. As a result of the Arab Spring, Iran's Cold War with Saudi Arabia has intensified, and its competition with Turkey has also intensified. On the positive side, as the US is about to withdraw from Iraq and Afghanistan, Iran's positions are likely to improve, and I believe the volatile situation in Bahrain and the situation in Egypt have created tremendous new opportunities for Iran to solidify its position. My third conclusion, and it's an unfortunate one, is that the price Iran has paid has been exuberantly high, and Iran's national interests have sometimes been profoundly undermined. Iran's huge financial support for its regional policies have prevented the country from spending on the much-needed domestic projects. Iran's confrontation with the US has resulted in crippling sanctions and lack of serious investments in Iran. My bottom line, and after that, please start taking your nap, my bottom line that Iran's power has increased, but that increase has not resulted in concrete gains for the Iranian people, nor these gains are necessarily serving Iran's overall strategic interest. Now, let me explain why I have reached these conclusions. Let me first make a few comments about Iran's general regional policies, because without understanding that, I think you're going to have a tough time understanding my points about Iranian involvement in Afghanistan, Iraq, Lebanon, and Syria. I think Iran's policies is profoundly shaped by its strategic competition with the United States. Iranian policy is American-centric, and Iran's ultimate goal, of course, is to survive as a theocracy and to undermine US interests and to find cracks in American containment policy of Iran. Another key point about Iranian policy is that Iran has been extremely careful and I think extremely successful in creating spheres of influence in the countries that it deems important for its national interest. These spheres of influences have already been created in the Herat region in Afghanistan, in southern part of Iraq, in Lebanon, and in Syria. Finally, I think it is very important to know that Iran's conventional military is in abysmal condition. What is not often recognized is that Iran has compensated for this weakness by its nuclear capability ambiguity policy, by developing advanced missiles, and by developing, I believe, the most advanced asymmetrical strategies in the Middle East short of the State of Israel. Now let me turn to the Arab Spring and what it has meant to Iran. 2 footnotes. First, we also had our own Persian Spring in June 2009, when 3 million Iranians took to the streets of Tehran, peacefully asking, "Where is my vote?" The promising movement, known as the Green Movement, was crushed by the Islamic Republic, but I can assure you, it has not died, and it will strike back one day. Second footnote is that the Islamic Republic has developed its own narrative about the uprising. It calls it the Islamic Awakening. And as the Islamicists are favorably positioned to become powerful players in Egypt, in Tunisia, in Libya, I think Iran's narrative is gaining popularity. Back to my main point about Iran. In terms of Iran's regional standing, I think in Afghanistan, it has had no impact. Iran continues to have friendly relationship with the Karzai government, although there are serious tensions, and these tensions are essentially about what happens when the security agreement will be signed between the United States and Afghanistan. Iran has 2 concerns. A, Iran does not want to see permanent American bases in Afghanistan, and I think Iran is going to fail in its policy because this is almost a done deal. But the secondly, and I think this is more important, Iran wants to have the same kind of assurance in those security agreements that existed between Iraq and the United States. That is, the US will not use Afghanistan as a launching pad to invade Iran. Iran continues to play an important role in reconstruction of Afghanistan. Iran has contributed so far more than $700 million, and Afghanistan has become an important partner with Iran. Also, I think Iran has developed good relationship with the Northern Alliance, with the Hazarat, with Shiite Hazarats, and even with the Taliban. And I think when the Americans leave Afghanistan, it is likely that Iranian influence will increase there. Now let me turn to what I think has been the most important gain of Iran in the past 30 years. Syria is number 2. I think the situation in Iraq and the removal of Saddam Hussein has been the single greatest strategic gift by US to Iran. Why? Because it was under Saddam Hussein that Iraq posed the greatest security threat to Iran. Moreover, Iraq was a counterweight against Iran in the Persian Gulf. Those 2 elements have now been eliminated. Iraq, now as a Shia-dominated country, is no longer a threat to Iran, but is a potential ally of Iran. And I think this is one of the reasons why the Gulf countries, the Persian Gulf countries, and other powers in the region are so concerned about Iranian influence in Iraq, and they often exaggerate this. I think the fact that Iraq did not vote for the suspension of Syria, the fact that Iraq is supporting the heroic uprising of the people in Bahrain and in other parts of the Arab world is an indication that Iraq is a potential ally of Iran. I think Iran also has created a very formidable sphere of influence in southern part of Iraq. I think Iran has developed good relationship with the Maliki government, has excellent relationship with the Kurds, and has groomed Muqtada Saad as a potential card to play in case of revival of sectarian warfare in Iraq. All in all, once the American troops leave Iraq, I believe it is very likely we are going to witness an intensified competition between Saudi Arabia and Iran. And my guess, and it's only a guess, is that that competition can become quite bloody in the coming years. Now let me focus on Lebanon and Syria. From the Iranian perspective, the sponsorship of the Hezbollah has paid great dividend to the Islamic Republic. That support started after 1979 revolution. The symbiotic relationship between Hezbollah and Syria constitutes the pivotal pillar of Iran's entire Levant strategy. Why? For a number of reasons. Number one, Iran's relationship with Syria and Hezbollah have given Iran the kind of strategic depth that Iran had never had. Iran now is on Israel's back door and has a strategic depth within the Arab world. Equally important, I would say that even more important than the first point, that Iran's good relationship with Hezbollah, its support for the Hezbollah, has given Iran incredible retaliatory capability against Israel and even against the United States. I think the Arab Spring so far has had absolutely no impact on Iran's relationship with Hezbollah, which is Iran's most important asset outside of Iran. I think Hezbollah is, of course, concerned about what is happening in Syria, but it has, the Arab Spring has had no impact on the relationship. The single greatest anxiety for both the Islamic Republic and for the Hezbollah is the situation in Syria. Although Iran has consistently supported every single uprising in the Arab world, from Tunisia to Egypt, to Libya to Bahrain, its opposition in Syria has been hypocritical and not defensible. The support has significantly undermined Iran's soft power and has lowered Iran's popularity in the Arab streets. The fall of Assad would be a major setback for Iran and will seriously undermine its entire Levant strategy. Iran is, of course, well aware that Saudi Arabia, US, and Israel have been seeking to detach Syria from Iran for a long time, a strategy that started even before the beginning of the Arab Spring. After all, Iran-Syrian alliance is the longest and the most durable of any alliances in the Islamic world in the past 50 years. The key for Iran is how Assad would fall and who would replace him. The hands of Assad has been bloodied by killing some 3,500 heroic Syrians. And as far as I am concerned, he has lost the legitimacy to govern, and he must go. Lively debates are going on in Iran about Iranian policy towards Syria. Many analysts have questioned the wisdom of Iran's unconditional support for Assad. My take is that Iran will continue to support Assad as long as its position in Lebanon is not negatively impacted. Iran's B plan is to follow the Egyptian model. That is, change the leader, but do not change the foundation of political power in Syria. In other words, Iran's second best alternative would be Assadism without Assad. Iran knows that regardless of who governs in Damascus, that leader will need the Hezbollah as a way to recapture the Golan Heights. This is what Tehran considers as its winning card. Finally, let me make a couple of points about two other important countries for Iran. One is Bahrain, the other is Egypt. The fall of Hosni Mubarak, I think, was another unearned victory for Iran. Iran had nothing to do with it, but Iran is acting opportunistically to take advantage of it. Hosni Mubarak was the only Arab leader that did not have diplomatic relationship with Iran. And now there is a pretty good chance that the new government, a democratic Egypt, will develop good relationship with Iran. And regarding Bahrain, I think it is very important for the audience here to understand that the people in Bahrain are uprising against their rulers not because they are Shiites. It's because they are a large majority without any power. It's the same reason why the heroic people of Egypt went against their leader. It is for the same reason that the heroic people of Iran had their uprising in 2009. Morality cannot be selective. We cannot support the Democrats that we like and oppose the Democrats that we don't like. That is not morality. That is political opportunism. And I believe if we do not push the Bahraini government to reform its archaic and repressive system, the Shiites will have no chance, no opportunity, no option but to go to the hands of Iran. And that is not going to be good for the region. What is clear that from Afghanistan to Lebanon to Syria, Iran has not been able to change the political landscape, but it is also clear that the United States and the West cannot and should not ignore Iran. Now let me finish my talk by telling you about the price Iran has paid. Iran's anti-American postures has had devastating consequences for Iran. If you compare Iran's overall socioeconomic performance in 1979 to Turkey and to the other Persian Gulf countries, and compare it to Iran's socioeconomic standing today, 32 years after that revolution, you are going to see why there are so many people frustrated with the Islamic Republic. In terms of socioeconomic performance, Iran has not done well. And I think the reason, I'm almost done, and I think the reason for this has to do with essentially oil and gas. Iran has the second largest natural gas reserves in the world and has the third largest oil reserves in the world. Yet, its level of production, oil production, is below what it was in 1979. And Iran's enormous natural gas reserves have remained unexploited, all because of anti-Americanism of the Islamic Republic and Iran's refusal to find out a way to reach a rapprochement with the United States. The last point I want to say, and I'm going to end this, is that Iran's restless and highly educated and computer-savvy population is seeking meaningful reform. Unless such reforms are initiated, Iran's foreign policy will continue to be based on fragile foundation, and it will not be sustainable. Moreover, unless Iran finds a way to reach some kind of agreement with the United States, its regional gains are likely to be squandered away in the coming years.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Milani. Now, from a large state to a small state.